Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Marvel Spider-Man Spectacular Difficulty video walkthrough. This is the mission Into the Fire. It is the hardest mission in the game, and we're going to be completing it with no damage. So there are a lot of tough fights coming up in this chapter. It is a particularly long one, filled with some serious perils, but they're also really fun. However, there's one fight that's just a piece of white dog shit, so we'll not talk about that one till we get to it, because it's horrendous. But all the other ones, really interesting, really demanding too. Particularly the helicopter one with the bombs that we have to get rid of, or the energy sources, this one here. So the problem you'll face on this particular mission is that you're constantly being attacked by a helicopter that fires rockets, and then there are a million dudes with rifles trying to shoot you while you're doing this, and there's no checkpoint here. You have to do all of the cores, I believe, on essentially one attempt. So you have to really know what you're doing, or go for them, dive bomb them, and then get the hell out of Dodge, which is what I'm going to be opting for. Usually in a mission like this, which I thought it worked like that actually the first time I got here, is you would do 2, get a checkpoint, then do the final 2, and then be done. But on this particular run, what you're about to watch was all done on a single checkpoint, and I'm not entirely certain if it's just the way it always works or if I just got unlucky. But what the strategy here is simple. It's essentially to divide and conquer and to subvert the expectations of our wonderful AI aimbot bastards that are shooting at us. So instead of just being high octane, swinging around, dodging a million times to not get hit, we're going to be taking on a lot of these angles from places where the AI might not expect us. But of course, the AI knows where you are at all times and has perfect accuracy. So instead, we've got to contend with this. But I come down to the ground to fight these guys. I'm going to get rid of as many of the gun guys as I can before I take on the core, and then we're going to be going back upwards. Down here, the helicopter seems not to be able to shoot the missiles too frequently, so you don't have to worry too much about that, so you can just take your time and get rid of these guys. Do you notice how right now, I've got a bunch of people with rifles, but they're not shooting me mercilessly? There's a guy on a roof with a rifle, he's being a dick, because he's putting constant pressure on me, but that's expected, it's a rifle, right? It makes sense. But just note that just then, tons of people with guns, none of them really shooting at me. Because this is the consistency of the guns in this game, guys. Another one of the reasons why I don't like them very much. Because the mission after this is really miserable. And if you remove the people with the pistols, it'd be one of the most fun fights in the game, because there's a ton of really cool different demons. But instead, tons of guys with guns constantly shooting you as you come out of a cutscene. It's just the pits. But I'm rushing up the building so I can take on the guy who is having a go at me. But I think I'm just going to go for the core instead of fighting them all, because that's what we're doing here. We're focusing on the cores, getting rid of them, and then we can try and progress now to get to the final one that's over on the left. And then once we've done that, the helicopter carries the last one, and the helicopter moves where you are pretty much, so you don't have to worry too much about getting into position for it. So here's me having a go at the chopper, doing a decent amount of damage. I don't quite have enough web shooter to do what I needed to do, but we'll get it the next time it comes around. It looks like I'm going for the helicopter immediately, because there's one on the far building, but the one on the far building that I've left, the reason I've left it, guys, is because there's a really cheeky fence that you can shoot over, and you don't have to fight anybody. So it's a really quick way of doing it. Chances are when you get here, you won't even remember this mission, because it's probably very forgettable, but on Spectacular Difficulty, this is a mission that will demand a lot of you, especially if you don't want to take damage. Oh, has the helicopter left? Interesting. That was me testing that computer dude's reflexes just then. Did you notice the frame I left cover just then? He spun around and aimed at me. Guy's a beast. Yeah, I'm going to have to move because it doesn't look like the helicopter's coming this way. So, if you swing around here, you can come up by the other side towards the building that's just in front of me here, and then you can go into a patio area at the back of it, and in the patio area, as I've mentioned, you can shoot over the fence, and no one can attack you from here except for the helicopter. So you either jump or jump on the wall and then shoot it. So it's very cheeky, very cheesy, but it'll get it done. And then the last one is the helicopter that should be swinging around us round about now, and hopefully when it does so, we can end this. And when you destroy the final core, it gives you the checkpoint that you've been waiting for. But don't chase it, because if you chase it, you'll probably get shot. So be very careful. Just kind of wait for your turn, and then when you see it, there you go, there it is. Dodge a couple times just in case, and then it transitions to this part, which is the worst part of the game. So, at the beginning, I like to run over here, and that way I can run up onto this building and I can begin to cheese the cheesy gun guys. If you dive directly at them, you can throw a bomb and then spray a bunch of them and then go into your blossom attack and then pretty much end the fight instantly. But I didn't want to use the bomb or the blossom because I wanted to smite this encounter purely because I think it's utter shit. It has a wonderful assemble of enemies. Like, the ensemble of the enemies here is really different and really difficult, but you don't get any chance to fight them because there's too many gun people. And it really does fundamentally showcase how terrible the guns are in this game. And if anybody's done this on Spectacular and you didn't notice the fight, like it's an immemorable fight for you, you got really fucking lucky. Because I have footage on this fight, getting hit as the cutscene ends, getting hit through geometry, getting hit when I dodge, getting hit when I dodge perfectly, and just a whole cavalcade of bullshittery. So, hence why I'm doing this, getting rid of all the gun people as effectively as I can, and then I'm going to go down and fight the demons. Because the demons are fun, but all those guns, this was just terrible enemy placement. And the worst part is, you can get shot by the fucking cops shooting at the demons. Which I don't know if you've ever had this happen, but you can get injured via passive gunfire. It's really bizarre. Like, it happens with the Sable guys as well. Have you ever seen the Sable guys shooting at gangbangers? And if you stand in front of it, you take a massive chunk of damage. And obviously you shouldn't stand in front of gunfire, but it's just one of those weird things. Like, if this fight didn't have this pretend battle, it'd be fine, but it does, because it gives you the illusion that these people are going to fight each other and you can swoop down and take them out, but you can't, because the computer pretends to fight until you turn up and then they fuck you up. But at this point, it's practically done. Once you've got rid of the guns, everything else is simple, because it's the gameplay that's fun, you know? You're taking on guys with shields, guys with death scythes, guys throwing grenades, and you can do whatever you want with it, but it's such a frustrating mission, this particular sequence here, simply because there's like 5 guys with pistols that shoot you from max range. Like, who the hell thinks that's fun? I don't understand. Like, I can't understand the people defending the guns when it makes such a fun fight shit. Like, this would be one of my favourite fights in the game if those dudes with guns were whip men. Because then it'd actually be fucking interesting. But instead, it's like eating your own shit. Why would you do it, right? But all of these people are uniques, so it's pretty cool. This is one of the first areas in the game where there are this many unique people. But once again, it's cuckolded by shit gun dudes that don't add anything to anything and just annoy. But yeah, that's the hardest fight in the game, guys, by a large margin. If you've done that fight, then you don't have to worry about anything else. Everything else is easy compared to that. That is an exceptionally difficult encounter. But now, we have to take on another area just over here, which is another precinct that we have to save because it's been attacked by Rhino. And this is just going to be a couple of combat sequences back to back, and then it's going to force us to go to some rooftops, and that's when this section gets difficult again. So the rooftop section coming up is 4 roofs, and then halfway through clearing the roofs, you get attacked by Special Saber jet troopers. And it's not that the encounter is all that difficult fundamentally, it's just that anybody can kind of shoot you at any moment, so if you're not on the ball, you take a chip of damage and you have to restart. Like, if you're not playing for no damage, you might not even remember the rooftop, but it's really easy to get clipped, so that's why it stands out as being very difficult. So this is Chris from the future interrupting Chris from the past, because if you saw the original version of this video, you will indeed know that I got shot by one of these gangbangers coming up, and I didn't notice because when you get shot in this game sometimes, the damage tell on your character is quite subtle. You'll see the chunk off your HP bar, but if you're focusing on the enemies, you might not be looking there, and I just did not realise. So I apologise for that, guys. It's not in my nature to tell you I'm doing something and then not do it, but indeed, this video was not no damage. I took damage, so I've come back, I've re-recorded, and I also noticed that I only included, I think, 2 of the fights in the first version of this video. There's actually 1 extra fight over here against a guy with a whip. And I think the last time I didn't put this in because I just got rid of them all with the Blossom technique and it webbed them all to the walls. So you get a little bit of extra footage here of me taking on instant frame Molotov men, which are hilarious to say the least. But There's also another video that's had some problems, which I'm going to be fixing in a moment. I want to just add, if you're wondering how to replay missions, because I didn't actually think it was possible, because if you Google it, Google will tell you that it can't be done. This is not true. Instead of going into a menu when you look around in your game file, you have to do it from the main menu. If you select load, there's save backups for every mission in the game. Every main mission has got a save backup. So as long as you know the name of it, you can pick it from the list and then you can replay it. So I only had to replay the shitty fight at the beginning of this level, and then I can get to these awesome fights right now, which you're watching. And there's nothing really to add to what I was saying before. I just don't want to step too much on former Chris's toes, because he's in the middle of a tangent where he's talking all about crazy guns and things. So just to kind of wrap up here, guys, I'm going to be brief. Thank you for watching the videos. Apologies once again that some of them have had problems, but I'm going to try right now to fix those issues, and enjoy. Guys with the assault rifles, they seem to be way better of an enemy when it comes to shooting at you, because they stand around a little bit, they telegraph, they give you an opportunity to do things without shooting relentlessly and hitting relentlessly. The pistol guys, they seem to be the John Woos of the gun enemy, the tequilas, you know, the insert guy with gun meme. Like, it's so strange how good they are. Like, the Sable Troopers, you would think, would be the most dangerous gun enemy in the game, right? Because it's a flying trooper that's capable of all kinds of craziness, and he's got a laser gun. But here is where, once again, the guns ruin the game, because they called the hierarchy of enemy types. The normal generic thugs should be the lowest tier, the lowest of the pantheon of threats. That's just what they should be. They are literally popcorn to be crunched. But in this game, the gun ones are at the top, and it completely throws off the ecosystem. Like, I would rather face a dozen whipmen than a bunch of dudes with pistols, because if you get that awkward AI when they all decide to be perfect, it's a nightmare to fight. It's not fun, and it's annoying. But you take on 4 of those jet troopers, and it's a really cool, interesting fight, because they're unique, and they're not bullshit. But they're meant to be high-tier enemies. It's the low-tier scrub enemies that are the ones that are the big threats, and it doesn't make any sense. It kind of displaces the flow of power. And speaking of jet trooper men, here they are, Sable jetpack enemies. It says, use web strike to close the gap, avoid their gadget disabling plasma barrage, as their player immobilizing bowlers. So, this enemy's kind of cool, as I fall off him just then, which you should never do. The one thing you need to be aware of, guys, is he has an ability to break out of combos and damage you when he does that. So do not mash on this enemy. This enemy is an anti-mash enemy, much like the Taskmaster. The best loop you can do against this enemy is to do the swing towards them, and then kick them with the swing. So triangle, hold square, and then repeat. You can keep doing it, and it seems to give you almost immunity. But another good method is to do triangle, hold square, web, hold triangle, and then end them by chucking them down and finishing them. That seems to be one of the best ways of dealing with the Sable guys. One of the downsides of the game is you don't spend a lot of time fighting them. There's only about 2 to 3 encounters where you have to fight them outside of the open world. In the main campaign, you fight this enemy type so infrequently that you don't really need to ever learn them, which is kind of interesting considering that every fight has a gangbanger with a pistol. So once again, the pantheon of enemies, the grace of enemy selection is kind of just pissed on with gunmen, and I don't get it. It's so strange. And it's one of the things that I'm really hoping the DLC does better, because this game has a lot of cool enemies, but you never see them. You just don't see them because instead it's Gun City. And it makes sense, right? If I were to try and stop Spider-Man, I'd probably employ a bunch of people with guns, because dodging a punch is a lot easier than dodging a bullet. It's just objective, right? You can't even argue that. But this is a video game. You know, how many times in the comics and in the cartoon did you see Spider-Man getting shot 9 times in the face and restarting checkpoint? It never happened, did it? Because the gun people were twats. They were just filler. They were people to fill frames so Spider-Man could kick somebody's ass. Whereas in this game, they're all Wesley from Wanted. It's amazing. You might have noticed too that I've taken a bit more of a defensive approach. The checkpoint here is at the beginning of this sequence when you had to go to the rooftop, and I didn't want to get any kind of cheesy chip damage, because I got damaged 2 or 3 times here and had to do it all over again. So this is just me not wanting to get shot. And the problem with a walkthrough such as this is you don't see all the times that I get shot by some awkward thing, and it's one of those things where I should probably do a montage just to show you how many times everything was going perfectly and then something damaged me. Because it happens a lot, you know. It only happened in a handful of the fights, most of them went perfectly, but in the handful that it happened, I got all kinds of unfortunate. And it does happen, guys, I'm not immune to it, I'm not above it, it's just you don't see it because I edit it out. But I believe this is the end of the mission, and what a mission it was. That is so difficult, guys. In the grand scheme of this game, it is night and day more difficult than everything else. In the grand scheme of difficulty, it's not that bad at all. I am really excited to see what this looks like on ultimate difficulty if it ever gets made, because I'd be really interested to see just how different those encounters are. And the thing I'm hoping for the most with this new difficulty, which I hope does exist and will be released, is that they change the enemy placements. If they change nothing except one thing, please be the enemy placements. There's so many cool shit in this game that you'd never see and never fight, and I'd love to see more of them. I really would. Thank you for watching. You take care now.